What goes into crafting the instruments that fill our world with music?
And you covered the holes, man. You did. You got the low G there as well.
Welcome to The Instrument Makers, a new YouTube series where we visit diverse instrument workshops.
Oh, this blade's not very sharp. That's very annoying.
Explore the artistry and techniques of master craftsmen.
I'm going to credit this as David's upgrade.
And share the fascinating stories and insights we discover along the way.
Wanna try it?
The bagpipes are a defining symbol of Scottish culture, and no visit to Scotland is complete without experiencing them firsthand. We're in Glasgow to meet Geordie Hunter, the founder of Maverick, who's making waves with his innovative chanter designs. While chanters are best known as the melody-making part of the bagpipes, they're also valuable as standalone practice instruments for pipers. In a market that often sticks to tradition, Geordie has taken bold risks with his colorful, unique designs. His journey to success wasn't easy, but today Maverick's high-quality chanters are changing how people are thinking about this classic instrument.
My name's Geordie Hunter. This is my company, Maverick. It is a company that specialises in custom-made practice chanters for the bagpipes. Well, it started out with me learning to play the pipes when I was younger. I think probably about 10 years old. It was something I was always really interested in. I remember hearing them as a young boy. So when I was very young, I started getting lessons with my local tutor, Rob Buchanan, in the West Coast. And progressed through into high school, which I then get taught by my now pipe major, Stuart Liddell. That would have been from about 12 years old. Played through high school, joined their band in 2009, I think was my first season in Inveraray. From that point, I originally wanted to be an electrician. I wanted to start the idea was to become an electrician and start my own electrical company, so to speak. But this was around 2008, 2009, which is when we had the big, great financial crash. And there was nobody taking any apprentices on. I had all the paperwork, passed all the tests, did everything I needed to do, and nobody would touch me. I went to hundreds of electricians, and nobody, they were like, look, we don't even know what's happening next week. We can't hire anybody. And I ended up getting a job in a company down in Kilmarnock called McCallum's. I worked with them for a few years and then left them to join another company based in Glasgow. Worked with them for a couple of years. And it got to a point with bagpipe manufacturing, the industry's not big. So in McCallum's I used to make small pipes, which is a kind of more specialist niched instrument. And then in Wallace I was kind of just like effectively a dishwasher there, which it didn't really tailor to the skills I had. So I kind of got to a point where with bagpipe making there's only so far you can go. I mean, in McCallum's they've got 50 guys working for them, and you have your manager, the foreman, and then the owner of the company. Mm-hmm. So there's nowhere to go. You could be the best at your job. But there's nowhere to go. So the only way to really make anything in the kind of piping industry is to just go and do it yourself. There's a lot more risk, it's a lot more expensive, it's a lot harder work, but at least there's no glass ceiling. At least you can go somewhere. I'd rather work double the amount for half the pay and be happy, and that's pretty much where I'm at just now. Yeah, so I've always made stuff. I've always been good with my hands, and I've always been in around making things. So I had a lathe when I grew up. My dad had a lathe. My dad was always very much into making things. We had a shed, then he had like power tools and things, so at the weekends when I was staying with him, I was always making stuff. Even if it was like way off, like something I couldn't ever imagine making, come on, we'll give it a try. If I've got the tools and I've got the time, we'll give it a try. So I got into the lathe a wee bit later on. I say later on, I was probably like 12 or 13 or something. And I'd make things. I used to do falconry.
Oh wow.
So I would
with
make
falcons.
Yeah. So I used to make like nice ornate perches for them, and put nice studs in them with the pins. So I'd make these beautiful things for that was my last bird of prey that I had. Her name was Diana, and she was a peregrine Saker cross. So she was beautiful white parrot falcon with blue feet. She had blue feet on her. So yeah, I've always slightly arrogantly always felt like there's better ways of doing things, and I'm quite happy to sit down and just think about there must be a better way of doing this. And you know, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I am a bagpiper and I like to make things. So it's like if that's my niche, there must be a way of making things better, and that's kind of just how this kind of came around. Well, I started out in the assembly room, which is basically just putting the pipes together. And it's quite a mundane job. You know, you get the pipes and the sticks when they're all finished, and then you have to hemp them, you have to assemble them, put the bags on them, set them up, all that kind of thing. And if it wasn't a job I really cared about, and see if there's a job I don't really care about, I make mistakes. So I used to, for instance, there'd be like, I put a wrong part on a pipe, I'd be just like, you know, it's Monday, I'm just like whatever, and I put things together, and I ended up doing too many times where I would just put something on and they'd be like, okay, right, we need a bit more care and attention than this, and they put me out on the lathe. I could already run a lathe, but I was much better on the lathe. So I went from doing something that I didn't enjoy to something I actually really did enjoy. Well, the Chanter part wasn't even the first part. So I invented a product. When I was working in McCallum's, I invented a product called Drone Dry, which was a moisture control system, which is a moisture control system for the pipes, that hadn't been thought of or developed or hadn't been done in the past. And I thought, okay, well, this is a good idea. The problem is that you have to be very careful when you work for companies, depending on your contract. Maybe not so much with smaller companies, you know, making instruments, but if you work for big tech companies and you invent something on their time, then they can potentially be, you know, they can take you, rent you for what it is. So when I invented this product, I couldn't stay in McCallum's any longer if I wanted to release this product and make a business of it. So I had to leave there, but another company in Glasgow said, look, we're aware of your product, we'll happily employ you if you want to release this product on the side, and we won't cause any, you know, we'll let you crack on, fine. So, and it was closer, it was better pay as well. So I started this other business. You know, you're 21 years old and you're looking, and I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was still a bit lost, and because the job I really wanted to do, being an electrician, I never got that. I think at that point I was too old for the apprenticeship side of things. So I managed to get a loan from my mum for $5,000 in the beginning, and she was like, look, I'll give you this money to help you get up and running. If it means that you're going to get out and you'll be happy, like, I'll help you out. And so that $5,000 helped get the ball rolling and pull things up to where we are now. So these, as you can see, there's various different colours. You can get them custom made to whatever you like. So I'll do ones for schools, I'll do ones for clan tartans. You know, people have got, like, you know, a certain tartan that they want replicated. You can put things together. So the premise behind it is that the wood is dyed individually and then it's laminated together. And then at that point, you can, I make it in blocks, so I get the blocks made for me specially, because you need, the equipment you need to make the blocks is crazy. You need hydraulic presses, you know, glue machines, all these kind of things. So I get the blocks made, and once I get them in, I then cut them into their billets, which will be square billets, you know. And then at that point, that's when I turn them into the cylinders. So what would be just like a multicolored sandwich, once you turn the cylinders down, you can then see that you get the different colours all the way through them.
Wow.
So this stuff here is very stable because each individual colour is a different piece of wood. And then it's also impregnated. So you've got the individualness of each individual piece of wood, and then you've got, because it's then impregnated, it's then extremely stable. So once the wood's been cut or bored or turned, it doesn't move. It's there. That's its form, because it can't warp, because it's not a what's the word I'm looking for? It's not like an organic piece of wood. It's engineered, so it kind of physically can't warp. So I thought, okay, well, if it's that stable, then it must be great for making woodwind instruments, i.e. the bagpipes. So I thought, do you know what? So I ordered it in, tried it, and yeah, it seems to work. Wow. Yeah.
Have you ever gotten flack from traditionalists about you using layers or the colors that you're using?
Not to my face.
Okay.
Nah, not really. Most people, I think in the beginning when the Chanters are released and the concept was there, but I'd say the first couple of years to a few years the Chanters are released, they weren't very good. And they say, if you're not embarrassed by your first offering, you waited too late, and that's 100%. I look at some Chanters now and I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe I let that go out. But as the first ones would come out or whatever, people would see them and they would look and go, it's just what's the word I'm looking for? It's a gimmick, you know. It's a coloured Chanter. Okay, fine, whatever. But then now I've spent so much time refining them. Like, again, always trying to make them better. I spent so much time refining them to make them the best that they can be. The colour side of it now is now the second part that people look for. People now buy the Chanters because they sound good. And again, these other bagpipe makers, they'll just copy a Chanter from the 60s, and they all copy it, and then they just put holes in it, they just do that and they send it out. But nobody knows any different. But I've actually taken the time to put the effort in so that you can play it and go, yeah, that's actually really good. And now people are now buying it now because it's a good instrument, as opposed to it's a gimmick of it being a colour. That's just the second aspect of it. So, which is, to be honest, the way around. I'd rather it sounded amazing and looked okay than it looked amazing and sounded okay. You know. So when I first started making these, I didn't really know much about how to finish wood. So they used to go out effectively with this finish on them. So they would get sanded and polished, which would kind of give you almost a satin effect. It was nice. Wasn't that hard wearing though. It only lasts, for a small period of time. And then I upgraded the finishes. I'm going back a few years ago now, probably. This would be one of the major things that I was like, okay, to a spray finish. So you can see the difference in what would be, like I said, the kind of almost a dull, kind of almost satin finish to that one there, which is high gloss, polished. One of the other upgrades that I made was the way that I treat the wood. So I used to treat the wood in a certain way, which worked great, but I found a better way of doing it now, to a point where the wood itself is effectively completely impervious to moisture. If you dig your finger in that, it's completely solid. That's the part that goes inside the Chanter, so that part there needs to be completely water resistant.
Is this different than how you did it before?
Yes. So there's also another bit. So I've got another one of the upgrades I made was a plastic pin. So there's a plastic pin in there. That's for the reed seating. So that's where the reed goes inside, and the reed's got some hemp around it. So there's a reed here.
I assume that just helps with just keeping it as tight as possible.
Well, effectively, because when you have so much moisture in wood and moisture just don't go well together. So you need to try and do as much as you can to try and mitigate any kind of movement or anything. So this used to just be cut into the wood, which is fine, and it'll be all right. The problem is you have hemp on the bottom of the reed, which expands. You have the wood in here, which then also expands, and you would sometimes get the reed stuck. So what I did was, instead I said, I'll take out as much of that as I can, and I'll put a plastic sleeve in there, so then there's no way it can ever get stuck. I just put a little pin in there, I reed seat it, the reed can go in, and no matter how wet the entire unit gets, you can just pull the reed out. You don't get that as an issue. If the wood isn't treated, it will absorb some of the sound, whereas the way I treat it makes the wood rock hard, and then it allows it to give it that projection. That was one of the big ahas that I had, where I was like, okay. And you can hear it from one of the older Chanters where the sound's quite quiet, quite mellow, whereas this is a lot more robust, and it's like a lot better sounding, and it's a lot more crack off it.
Has the shape changed over? Has it changed drastically over the years?
No, the shape has basically stayed exactly the same from when I first started them. The actual profile itself, I've kept to be as uniform as possible. One reason it has to be uniform as possible now is because of the cases I sell with them. So these cases I designed to fit.
That's really cool.
The practice chanters themselves. So each individual case will perfectly fit. Take that out. Will perfectly fit. You can't vary too much with the profile because it needs to fit in there, and you can see how well it fits in.
Oh wow, I'm worried about that. Oh
yeah, no, it's a perfect fit. So I basically offer absolute bass instruments, and then you can build whatever you want. You can get different upgrades, you can change your colors, you can add engraving, you can change your metal finishes, you can add a case, and I have a builder on my website that you can go on and you can build the full chanter, and you can see how much it's going to cost, what it looks like, and then it'll take you through to the Instagram and it'll show you all the chanters I've made in that color, and all the different versions of it, so you can see what it looks like in real life as well.
See how this goes here.
So that's a long span. If you're not used to playing them, you'll notice it.
My fingers are not landing in the right place, but that's okay. It definitely sounds better than the practice chanter I got at home. I'll tell you that.
You covered the holes, man. You did. You got the low G there as well. Well done. It's probably quite embarrassing if you were to go like. It took me years to get them, because I'd get to a point where I'd make it and go, I'm happy with this. This is good. I like this a lot. And then a year later, I'd look at that and go, whoa, it's like Richard Hammond when he came out of his car accident. He would, when he nearly killed himself trying to do the land speed record, he'd be like, I'm good. He's like, I feel good now, I feel fine. And then he'd look at where he was a week ago and go, oh, I definitely wasn't all right. So, and I still do it now. I've seen the amount of progress that I make in terms of like what I can do to make things better drastically slow down. In the beginning, you can make big leaps and bounds, and there were certain things that would happen that you'd be like an aha moment where you're like, that will make such a difference, and then you do it and it makes a huge difference to the instrument. And then there's now just little tweaks. There's some things that bug me that have never bugged anybody else. Which is fine, because I'd rather it annoyed me as opposed to people coming back. And there's other things that people have said, maybe just an off-the-cuff comment by saying, I wouldn't mind if this finger hole was a bit further here, or I wouldn't mind this or that. And I remember all these things, and I'm like, okay, cool. So I'll take all the changes, and when it comes to it, I'll release a video, and I'll be like, this is the old version. These are all the things I didn't like about it. These are all the things that I can improve on. Here's a new version, and here's everything that's been improved. So that people can see, to look at, it'll look very similar. But in terms of the engineering that will go into it, will be drastically different in terms of an instrument.
Do you have plans to move into the bagpipes themselves, the bagpipes? I
get a lot of requests of people asking for bagpipes. A lot of people asking for pipes. It's one of those things, though. There probably will be a market for it. I won't go in with the bagpipes right now. The small pipes that's what I used to make when I was in McCallum's, and I will get back into them again. I've just taken delivery of another machine, a CNC lathe at the back, that I'm going to use for doing all my metalwork and my plastics. Because at the moment, it's like an 8-week waiting list for one of these chanters right now. So it takes me 2 months, from if you were to place an order now, that's effectively how long it takes for me to get through them. And that's if nothing goes wrong. If I don't catch COVID or have a baby or end up in hospital for whatever reasons, that's like best, that's where we're at. Yeah. So I don't have time to make any other instruments at the moment. But this machine, I've just had it delivered. It gave me a bit of problems in the beginning to get things. It was giving me some teething problems. But the small pipes, once that's up and running and I can get a bit of space, small pipes will be the next step.
Gotcha. Do you make your own reeds as well?
I don't make the reeds, no. I buy the reeds in. That's another whole specialist thing. That's those are the tires for the car.
Yeah.
You buy. If I'm making a car, I'm Tesla. Just contact Michelin. Get the Pilot 5s. We're not making tires. No. So I buy them in from a guy in Northern Ireland.
Is that something that you're not even going to touch?
Nah. It's not worth my time. They're so cheap. And the guys who do them, they do them extremely well. And they've got them to a point where they can make them in bulk, and I can buy them in good quality at good prices, and I can put them in the chanters, and then I know that as long as my chanters are good and the reeds are good, that when I put them together, that the end product will be good. I would say that going from being, is this going to work? And going, because the first few years were very difficult. The company nearly went under. One time in particular where it was a couple of weeks away from being me just going, no, I'm done with this. To now, that's not an issue that I have. So I wouldn't say there was one time in particular of being, you know, quite proud, but I would say I don't have to worry so much about going, when's the next order going to come in, or how am I going to make money this month. Just being able to pay the bills, and, you know, being able to, you know, be able to pay my car, pay the rent, pay my wages, do all these things, and not have it to be a point where I'm like, where am I going to get money next week to pay for this stuff, where it used to be. That's a pretty proud moment for me, is being able to take a concept and going, okay, this has got legs, you know, and I can take it as far as I want to, as opposed to going, I want to take this further, but it just, there's no room for it. Tina, there is no alternative. Like I said, I left the bagpipe making game in 2014, and I looked at it and thought, I don't have any other options here. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I left. It used to cause me a bit of stress because you're, you know, 22 or whatever, going, I don't know what I want to do as a career. And I was extremely unhappy when I left my last jobs. And I remember saying, I'm never making another set pipes again. I'm done with this, because I was so unhappy in the situation I was in. But now I'm doing it on my own, I'm over the moon with it, and I love doing it.
In a craft steeped in tradition, Geordie Hunter proves that innovation and heritage can thrive together. What started as a young man's fascination with bagpipes has evolved into a thriving business that's pushing the boundaries of chanter design. Through years of refinement, Maverick has grown from a risky startup into a respected name in the piping community. By combining modern materials with traditional designs, Geordie creates instruments that honor the past while embracing the future. Thank you for joining us in this episode of The Instrument Makers. Comment below about what content you'd like to see in the future. Join us next time as we continue to explore the workshops and stories of those who craft the tools that fill our world with music.